under fading skies. Tattered flags waving dreams in our eyes. The crowds roar like a storm on the wind. We're the underdogs fighting again.
Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to another edition of Yanks Abroad, our weekly recap of U.S. men's national team pool players over in Europe. And man, I understand that I'm a day earlier on this, but that being said, there is a programming change because usually the show does air on Monday, but obviously we're doing it tonight because the next 3 days I will be in Miami for the Seattle Sounders versus Inter Miami. Down at Chase Stadium in wonderful Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So you know what? I figured why not get it in? I absolutely love doing these shows, so I figured why not? It was a sensational weekend for the U.S. men's national team pool players. So I figured, what the hell? Let's just do it tonight. And I'm glad that we actually are ended up getting this one in. Because I would be remiss to say if I did, I would probably regret it. Before we get into it, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons because, of course, man, listen, this channel is actually growing exponentially fast, and I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to all those out there that have contributed in the chat, but also have throw a sub my way. I am absolutely grateful. And again, man. Thank you very much to the U.S. soccer community. All right, let's get into it because we're going to start with our strikers because why wouldn't we? I think this was probably next to center defensive mids, potentially. I think this was probably the area in which I think there was a lot of class on display this week. And let's go ahead and get into it. And we're going to start with Flo Balogun. Coming off of the brilliant performance in the match against Japan in the international break. He got 63 minutes versus Auxerre in Ligue 1. He did have an assist on 4 shots in those 64 minutes. 28 touches, 10 in the opposition box, and this is exactly what you want to see with your number one. The thing about this is that, what I like actually most about him is there's a difference between a guy like him and say like a guy like Josh Sargent that absolutely needs width just to the way that he plays. Balogun is far more direct and you can play him through using his pace and using his physicality. He's actually a pretty solid finisher. And in this one, he does actually get a goal contribution. And that's absolutely nice to see considering that the minutes that he played, which was about 120-ish over the international break. So he didn't necessarily get to, they had him on the time restriction, so that's fine. He played about an hour, and that was absolutely brilliant. And it's a good performance, and this is exactly what you want to see. You want to see that consistency. Coming from an international window, I understand there's probably going to be some travel issues. You're dealing with jet lag and some of these other things, and it's absolutely nice to see that that necessarily wasn't the case with a guy like Ballo. And me personally, this is exactly what I want to see from him. I want to see consistency. I want to see that continuity. And I hope that this is going to be a string of games until we get to the next international window, where he's going to have three to five goals within that span, which is exactly what you want to see. And I really feel like whatever issues that Bala was dealing with last season, at the beginning of last season, it feels like he's kind of over that with the injuries, and then maybe the issue of moving to a new club. Those type of issues are behind him. Let's go ahead and get into this gentleman right here, Ricardo Pepi. Back into PSV Eindhoven starting 11 against NEC Nijmegen. Of course, that's the ex-wife's favorite team over there in the Dutch Eredivisie. Pepi played 65 minutes, and dude was absolutely sensational. 2 goals on 2 shots, 26 touches altogether, 6 in the opposition box, 14 of 16 of accurate passes. And of course, he had three chances created on the night. And this is like the best scenario possible, right? Where you're coming off an international break where a guy like Balogun, who reminds people just exactly what type of quality he has, and now all of a sudden Ricardo Pepi says, whoa, man, hold my beer. Let me show you something, right? That was absolutely nothing. And all of a sudden, bang, against a team like NEC Nijmegen, not exactly the greatest team in the Dutch Eredivisie, but nonetheless, right, Ricardo Pepi goes right back into the starting 11, and he shows exactly his class as well, too. And now all of a sudden, we have ourselves a battle for the number 1. And this is absolutely fantastic, because understand, like, the winner of this means that the depth on this team is going to be absolutely sensational, right? And of course, you have 2 strikers who kind of play a similar style, a little bit more direct. And I think that actually helps. Considering that there's going to be multiple formations that Pochettino is going to employ depending on the opponent, right? So if you're playing like a 4-2-3-1 narrow and you want to play direct through the center of a park, you can absolutely do that. Or if you're going to try to play a long ball over the top, you have a guy like Balogun or a guy like Pepi who can chase it down. And of course, this is exactly what you want to see. I think, me personally, it was a little devastating the last time out. When Pepi got hurt last year to the knee injury, wondering when we would actually see him back. And I'm absolutely thrilled that he's back. And listen, man, this is like the best case scenario. His first start back against a team like NEC. And he shows exactly his quality, man. It just goes to show you that the U.S. striker pool is actually pretty deep. Man, this just gets me excited. So congratulations to Ricardo Pepi. Man, listen, phenomenal weekend. I'm glad to see you back. Man, kicking things off with a bang. It's absolutely brilliant. Josh Sargent. Last night, yesterday, actually afternoon, it was the battle between Haji and Josh. And you were kind of curious to see exactly who was going to get the better of them. Of course, with Haji right in Coventry, he has Frank Lampard as his manager. But Josh nonetheless played 84 minutes and was literally just invisible. I think he only had 1 quality shot, 16 touches, 2 in the opposition box. And listen, let me go ahead and explain the reason why, because I think some of you might be confused, because Josh absolutely just got off to a torrid start. 5 goals, 5 matches. I mean, that dude was absolutely just on fire. But again, when you're playing a team like Coventry City, who are absolutely organized in the back, very good without the ball. But that being said, the way that they press, the way that they, the way that they essentially take away the middle parts of the pitch and essentially force teams to play down the wings, that's exactly what happened. And understand that Norwich was just terrible yesterday when it came to in the possession game. Sloppy touches. They literally couldn't string together 2 passes because everything was disrupted. The passing lanes were disrupted, and every single time somebody tried to touch the ball in the middle parts of the pitch, there were 2 sky blue jerseys on them, making it incredibly hard for a guy like Josh to actually get involved. Because again, the way that Josh plays and the way that he actually feels comfortable in system, especially at Norwich, is they play with width, right? Josh is not a direct target 9, right, where you actually ask a guy to hold up the ball. That's not how he plays, right? Josh generally camps in the channels, right? And so when you're playing with width and balls come into the box, he's able to use his physicality. He's able to use a little bit of his pace in the box, almost like a little bit of a fox in the box type of situation. And that's how Josh is able to feast. He is literally like one of those old school nines, the classical nines that we saw back in the day. And so that's the difference between a guy like Josh and a guy like Ballo, where Ballo uses his pace. He can hold up the ball a lot better. And it's just one of those games, right? Josh, it wasn't for a lack of trying. Whenever they were trying to be a little bit more direct from the back, trying to play Josh on it, it was just a simple fact that either it was just not an accurate long pass, or unfortunately he was doubled over the top. It just happens. It was one of those games, and I guess it was credit to Frank Lampard in Coventry City, because they actually had they absolutely schemed against him absolutely correctly. So it just was one of those type of matches that Josh unfortunately just could not get involved. But I would probably assume as the season continues to progress, man, Josh is probably going to be hovering right around the 20 goal mark for the championship. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the Golden Boot race for the championship, because again, man, even with the problems that Norwich displayed yesterday, he's still going to find the back of the net for him. Speaking of the other side of the coin, Haji Wright played a full 90 yesterday and was absolutely brilliant. He was everywhere. And again, man, Haji is showing his class. This is kind of an interesting situation that's unfolding with Coventry, because a team that's not necessarily considered to be in the promotion race, with a guy like Haji Wright and the move from the left wing to that number 9 position, it's kind of changed the complexity, because now they can actually be a little bit more direct. They can play off the wings, or they can play through the middle of the park. And having a guy like Haji who can run on the end of the ball, use his physicality. If you want to play the hold-up game, you can. I think that was the thing about Haji yesterday. It's like he showed multiple levels of his game. He did have he actually had the winning. He had the equalizer in stoppage time. 5 shots total, 33 touches, 11 in the opposition box. He was 8 of 13 of accurate passes. He did miss a sitter early in the second half as well too. I mean, this could have been a situation where he actually had 2 goals. As a matter of fact, that cross that came in was absolutely right on the money. I think it went off his shin and went wide. But that being said, listen, quality performance, and now he's tied with Josh Sargent for 5 goals at the top of the leader. And this is going to be an interesting situation for Mauricio Pochettino, because if you have 4 strikers who are doing the things that they absolutely need to do, it's going to be interesting how Haji Wright fits into these plans. Because yes, if you're going to be playing with an attacking 3, you can play him on the left. But even if you're playing, what we saw in that match against Japan, which was like a 3-4-2-1. If you want to bring Haji Wright in as that kind of like that underneath left-sided false 9 a little bit, in what we would have seen, which was like that Christian Pulisic role, especially with a guy like Ballo up top. That is also something that's interesting to think about, because I think he would absolutely be brilliant in that role, which is probably why I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility to actually carry 4 strikers on this roster. Because there's going to be multiple ways that you're going to be able to deploy a dude like Haji Wright, and it absolutely makes sense. Let's talk about Patrick Aubameyang, because he did see the field yesterday, and this was my fault too, because I thought he was going to be out a little longer than he was, because he did have the groin injury, which delayed his start to the season for Derby County. Yesterday in a match against West Brom, he made his appearance with 21 minutes. He did have the winning assist in that one. Not a lot really to talk about, but that being said, it's good to see Patrick Aubameyang in the championship and doing what I think at least he expects to do. He had the winning assist yesterday, 14 touches and only 2 in the opposition box. Not a lot of minutes really for Pat. It was just an opportunity for him to get his feet wet. And I guess, fine. I mean, these are the type of games where they're slowly going to introduce him back into the starting 11. I would probably assume in the next couple weeks, Patty will get a start for Derby County. And again, but this is the interesting thing, because Derby County is not going to be in a position where they're going to be in the promotional race. They're going to be mid-table, probably lower mid-table, because again, it's Derby County. They don't necessarily have the greatest defense in the world, right? So they're going to leak a lot of goals. And it's going to be up to Patrick to be in a position where he can actually bang in some goals to kind of keep them above the relegation zone. But that being said, I would probably assume they're going to finish mid-table at some point. But it is what it is. He's playing for Derby County, and I just don't think that I don't think he's going to have the type of year that is going to play his way into the World Cup roster. That being said, it's like when you look at the evolution of Haji Wright at Coventry City, he's going to continue to score. Josh Sargent's going to continue to score. And so from that standpoint, like Patrick Aubameyang is going to have to actually either keep pace or potentially, utilize his minutes well to actually potentially even do better. But that being said, he's also got competition from a guy like Damian Downs, who, by the way, did not play yesterday in Southampton's match. But that being said, the striker pool had an unbelievable performance this weekend, all the way down. And again, I would probably assume that Josh is I'm not worried about Josh. Personally, I think that was better game planning than a lack of will from him. But let's move to the center attackers because we have 3 to talk about this weekend. And of course, I actually thought we had some good performances this weekend. And we'll start off with Malik Tillman, obviously the Bayer Leverkusen's talisman out there. They actually won 3-1 against Eintracht Frankfurt. Malik Tillman played 62 minutes yesterday, created 3 shots on target, 24 touches, and 2 passes in the final third. Wasn't exactly I wouldn't say it was your greatest performance from Malik, but that being said, it's he is that left-sided 10, coincidentally in the same formation that we saw against Japan in that 3-4-2-1. Again, man, I just look at this as a situation where Malik is going to grow into this position as the season rolls along. And he's already started off the season strong, showing that he can score in the Bundesliga and still be a main facilitator for the guys up top there at Leverkusen. But that being said, he's actually one of my favorite players in the pool because he just does everything so well. And I actually have him as a lock on the roster. As of this point, I don't see any reason to exclude him because, again, he's just going to continue to get stronger. And as he continues to develop with Leverkusen, you're going to start seeing the GA. Let's talk about this young man because Gio Reyna is back, man. Gio is back yesterday with his new club, Borussia Mönchengladbach. They played Werder Bremen. Gio had 74 minutes in an otherwise absolutely stinking performance from the rest of the crew around him. Coincidentally, he's also a teammate of Joe Scally, who did not feature yesterday. But nonetheless, 74 appearances. He had 3 shots, 47 touches, 5 in the opposition box, and 5 passes into the attacking third. And Gio was the bright light in an otherwise absolutely shitty situation for Borussia Mönchengladbach. The team did not play well around him. But that being said, if you're watching that performance, man, Gio looked amazing. I listen. I got to tip my hat to him because there's a lot of things that we could talk about Gio. But that being said, what the funny thing about this is, I don't think the talent is the issue. I think we've always seen the talent. The things that fans of the U.S. men's national team will like to talk about, a guy like Diego Luna, the flair, the creativity. I think that, Gio actually has the exact same capabilities, and I think he has it in spades. One of the things that with Gio that outside of the injuries that kind of plagued Gio was the entitlement, the sense of entitlement of being able to be handed that Borussia Dortmund position, and then also the behind the scenes with his dad. And some of the chaos that caused, and of course the 2022 World Cup roster, and then also the issues with the club teams. Especially some of those reports about how some of that entitlement had rubbed some of his teammates the wrong way, right? But that being said, now all of a sudden he's in a different position. Now that Borussia Dortmund didn't want him anymore, and now all of a sudden he has to find a new home. And I'm just hoping that the things that plagued him prior, the entitlement, hopefully the maturity has kicked in, and hopefully he understands that if this doesn't go well, it's going to be an uphill battle. So I'd love to see, especially from Gio, I hope the maturity is there where he can ditch the attitude, he can ditch the ego, he can ditch the sense of entitlement, and also tell his dad to back the F off, right? Like he's got to have to put in the work here. And if he does, and if he can prove to be that bright spot for Borussia Mönchengladbach, he's going to find his way on the World Cup roster. And I think it's definitely doable because, again, if you have an informed guy like Gio, a motivated Gio, that's all that's going to do is make this World Cup roster even better. Let's talk about Brendan Aronson because he did play yesterday against Fulham. Although he was on the right-hand side yesterday for Fulham, I thought Brendan actually played pretty well. Now, understand that Leeds is going to be a team that's going to be relegated this year from the Premier League. But that being said, you can also be a bright spot for it. You can also be a bright spot for a team. And I think that his performance yesterday really kind of does have to be talked about because I thought it was actually pretty good. Played 77 minutes yesterday. 14 of 17 on accurate passes, 44 touches, 4 in the opposition box, and he also made 3 passes into the final third. So he's kind of showing that quality that he can be a facilitator at that level. Understand, last year in the championship, okay, great, he had a fantastic year, but that's a championship, and this is a massive step up. The quality is absolutely different, and it's going to take a different mentality. But that being said, a dude like Brendan Aronson does have the ability to match that mentality. And now it's going to be up to him to put in those quality performances. And I gotta tip my cap to Brendan because I thought he played well. I thought he really did. Now, again, when you think about Leeds and again their position within the Premier League, it's not going to be easy. Yesterday losing 1-0 to Fulham, and then of course you had the draws against Newcastle, and you had the draws against Sheffield Wednesday in the Carabao Cup. Prior to that, they absolutely got played off the pitch against Arsenal. So it has kind of been a little bit of a rough go. They're currently only on 4 points at the bottom of the table. And as this thing continues to progress, man, it's not going to get easier for them. But that being said, if you can show quality and consistency, you're going to continue to stay in that starting 11. And that's kind of the idea for Brendan Aronson. Let's turn to the wings. We have 3 to talk about. Of course, we'll start with Christian. Wasn't in the starting 11 as he was given a little bit of a rest, just considering the minutes that he played in the international window. AC Milan played Bologna. As soon as he stepped on the pitch, he played 25 minutes, and all of a sudden things absolutely, changed for the good. 9 of 10 of accurate passes, 3 chances created, 21 touches, 2 in the opposition box, and of course that's Christian. As soon as he steps onto the pitch, he shows his class and quality. Would have been nice to talk about a Christian Pulisic goal, but it is what it is. And of course, we'll obviously see far more Christian between now and the end of the window. And I would probably assume I'm going to be coming on the show and continue to talk about him. Timothy Weah. Yesterday, for Olympic Marseille, they were playing against Lorient. He played 66 minutes yesterday, and he was actually really good. He was really good on that left-hand side for Olympic Marseille. 26 of 30 accurate passes, 2 chances created, 38 touches, 4 in the opposition box. And he was also 2-2 of accurate crosses. And this is exactly what you want to see. You know, you want to see that continue. You want to see that continuity higher up the pitch. I know that he, like the week right before the international break, he was back at right back. But that being said, like for the U.S. men's national team, he's going to be playing higher up the pitch, and because of his speed and because of his creativity, he's almost a little invaluable. But that being said, you know, with the potential formation change, the question is like, where does he play? Does he play as that right, as that right-sided player above the midfield four? Great question. Can he play a little underneath? I actually think he might be able to. But that being said, Timothy Weah is going to be a nice piece, regardless of the formations that we play. Weah is going to be a nice piece to have come World Cup 2026. Let's talk about Alex Zendejas in Liga MX, because he did play against Chivas, and he was absolutely sensational. Played an entire 90, had a goal on 2 shots, 47 to 52 accurate passes, 3 chances created, 75 touches, 3 in the opposition box, and 11 passes into the final third. He was actually in the 10 position for Club America, and he's just continuing. He's continuing just to play well, and it's nice to see that carryover from that performance against Japan. This is the one that I was kind of curious about, right? I wanted to see that continuation from from that match against Japan. And sure enough, man, against a team like Chivas Guadalajara, it was absolutely nice to see Zendejas put in that type of performance. And now the question is like, how does Zendejas fit on this World Cup roster? Because again, I think he showed, in the absence of a dude like Malik Tillman, and for what Pochettino was asking him to do, I think he kind of passed that test with flying colors. And now you potentially have a dude who can actually play on the wing if you need him. He can play underneath. He was literally just showing exactly what he can do at that 10 position. So it was nice, man. It was really nice. Turning to our 8s, our center mids, Weston McKennie getting a start for Juventus, and they actually beat Inter Milan, which was nice to see. And my phone is dinging. I'm sorry about that. It was absolutely nice to see, because we were wondering when Wes was going to be able to take the pitch. So far, it has not been getting minutes, and of course, this just happens every single year when a new coach comes in, and McKinney's got to continue to do this process every single year. But as soon as he steps on the pitch, right, he shows you exactly why he continues to have to battle his way back in the starting 11. I wouldn't say it was his greatest performance yesterday, but he did play 79 minutes, 19 of 22 of accurate passes, 40 touches, 2 in the opposition box, 2 passes into the final third. But that being said, man, I'm okay. With this type of performance, as long as it leads to more performances, because I think McKennie is going to be such a vital piece to this World Cup roster. And one of the things that you want to see are results, right? Yes, it's nice to see starts. It's nice to see minutes, but form matters, and results actually do matter when it comes to personal performance. So good to see Wes get in. Now it's time to see Wes not only stay in, but also continue to actually have good performances. Let's turn to Yunus Musa, who is now with Atalanta, and they played Lecce. And he had 14 minutes yesterday, 13 of 15 of accurate passes, 19 touches. Let's see. He had 2 of 2. Looks like he had 2 shots on goal and then 2 passes into the final third. That's cool. It's nice to see Eunice get minutes, and again, man, he's going to be a pivot. He's going to have be a pivotal cog in this U.S. machine because again, man, the pace through the middle of the park, right? And it's something that it's interesting, right? The way that we saw a guy like, say, Christian Roldan that played opposite of a dude like Tyler Adams, right? So in that system, they were using essentially 2 6s. And now you're kind of wondering, okay, cool. So if we're going to be playing that formation, and we're going to be on the front foot, let's say we're playing, somebody from like Pool D, right? So we're playing a team that we're a little bit better. We're going to be controlling the possession. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how that's going to line up, especially next to a dude like Tyler Adams as we're pushing forward, and what that pace and the ability, to be a little bit direct through the midfield is going to look like, right? So these are the things that kind of get me a little bit excited. Listen, man, Yunus Musa, I hope this turns into better performances because just like Wes, it's not just about minutes, it's also about performance. And these are the two guys that right now are kind of, I wouldn't say that the locks, but you would like to think that, they're a little bit more than that because I think both of these players give this team far more better than the Sebastian Berhalters and Jack McGlynn's and some of those other guys from Major League Soccer. So these are the two guys that I'm actually keeping my eye on the most because, again, man, for me at least, these guys are pivotal pieces to this midfield. So we'll see exactly how that goes. But I do also want to talk a little bit about Gianluca Busio. Obviously, Venezia got relegated back to Serie B. They played Pescara yesterday. And Gianluca Busio, man, not bad, man. 77 minutes, 3 shots on goal, 23 of 24 accurate passes, 39 touches. And he also had two balls played into the final third. And I know that we don't talk a lot about Gianluca because the times that he did get called in, they were inconsistent performances for the national team. But that being said, man, I wanted to talk about Gianluca a little bit because he's actually been pretty good this year. I know he goes under the radar because he's playing in Serie B. But that being said, man, yesterday he was playing as the 10, and he played it well, man. He played it very well. And I just wanted to show my flowers for him yesterday. Show him the flowers because I just think that, when we're talking about performances, yes, he's a starter, right? So he's going to be getting the minutes. But whereas, Wes and Musa are probably going to be fighting for the minutes. So when they do get on the pitch, they have to show their quality. I don't want to take for granted for the fact that there is a guy in Italy, essentially playing that position that is actually having performances. And it's something that I think that hopefully a guy like Pochettino is paying attention to. Let's turn to the CDMs, the defensive mids. 3 of the 4 did play yesterday. Johnny Cardoso did not play for Atletico Madrid, but Tyler Adams was back in the starting 11 for Bournemouth. They were playing Brighton, and he had a full 90, 39 to 47 accurate passes, 11 defensive contributions, 6 passes into the final third, 5 recoveries, and he did pick up a yellow card yesterday, and it seems like that's now his second or third straight match with a yellow card, but that's fine. When you look at the job that they're asking him to do, like Tyler Adams is just like a quiet soldier, right? He just goes about his business, and they're just professional performances, man. Like he is very much an underrated 6 in the Premier League. He does not really when we start talking about defensive midfielders, people like to talk about Declan Rice or Joao Palhinha, or some of these other guys in the Premier League. Not a lot of love for Tyler Adams, but that being said, he's one of the reasons why that Bournemouth defense is as good as it is, because God damn it, he's just so good. Tanner Tessman played against Stade Rennes, and he put in a full 90. 40 of 44 accurate passes, 62 touches. 2 of 2 standing tackles, 6 passes into the final third, 7 defensive contributions, 7 recovers, and 3 of 3 of aerial duels. Tanner Testman actually, again, man, just like Tyler Adams, like that evolution of Tanner Testman from when he came from Venezia into League One, it wasn't a little bit of adjustment. The performances last year were not necessarily consistent, but so far this season, he's actually been a rock for Olympique Lyon. I'll just, again, man, like if we want to give our flowers to a dude like Tyler Adams, let's give our flowers to Tanner Testman as well, too, because that evolution has been nice to see. And of course, we have Nate Holloway. What's going on, Nate? Hope you're doing well, man. And Rhode Island FC played yesterday. I caught a little bit of it. I didn't see exactly how that one finished out, man. How did it finish out? Let me know. Let's go to Aiden Morris because, again, Aiden Morris was absolutely brilliant for Middlesbrough. Why this dude is not getting called in, I have no idea. Yesterday, Middlesbrough played Preston North End, and he played a full 90 yesterday. 63 of 67 accurate passes, 86 touches, 11 passes into the final third, 6 of 10 on ground duels, and this dude just continues to be one of the best sixes in the championship. That being said, it's going to be interesting to see exactly, because last year when he made the move, he was pretty good for Middlesbrough. This year he's even better, and so that now the question begins, whether or not this might lead to something better, maybe a move to Germany, or whether or not there's going to be a Premier League team, maybe mid-table, a little bit lower, that's going to take a chance on the dude like Aiden Morris, or Middlesbrough gets promoted. You know what I mean? Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility either. And I would like to see Aiden Morris get called into camp because I think he deserves it. And I also think that it's going to be interesting to see exactly, again, formation-wise, how that sets up and what it looks like in that 3-4-2-1, playing next to a dude like Tyler Adams. And it looks like Nate says our Rhode Island won on an own goal. Well, there you go, man. I'm glad to see it, man. And by the way, from what I did see of Rhode Island, I got to say, man, I actually am. It's weird because I watch a lot of championship football. And I got to say, man, I think yesterday I was watching the Pittsburgh Riverhounds for a little bit as well, too. And there's some quality. I think it was, Lou City versus Pittsburgh. I caught a little bit of that one. And I kind of enjoyed it, man. It's kind of like that's the crazy thing about the USL Championship. It's underrated. I think there's some quality teams in the USL Championship, and I think that's kind of reflective when it comes to the US Open Cup. Let's move to our center backs now, because Chris Richards did play yesterday, played a full 90. Coming off the international break where I think he got one start and I think he came in late in the match against South Korea. Yesterday, they were playing Sunderland, and I believe that ended in a 0-0 draw. Sunderland is one of the more surprising teams that came up from the championship last year. Yesterday, he had 54 of 60 accurate passes, 4 of 5 accurate long balls, 2 of 4 ground duels, and 3 recoveries. I wouldn't say it was his best performance, but that being said, it wasn't terrible at all. And now he's essentially a regular fixture in that back three for Crystal Palace. And as somebody that watches a lot of Crystal Palace football, you see the maturation and you see the evolution of Chris Richards as well, too. He actually right now is our best center back in our pool. And by the time 2026 rolls around, the 2026 World Cup rolls around, that dude is going to be literally at his best, man. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what Chris Richards looks like at the end of the season, because I would probably assume it's going to look awesome. Let's look at Mark McKenzie yesterday. And listen, man, I thought he actually played pretty well, man. As Toulouse played LOC Lille, he played 90 minutes yesterday, 12 of 6. He played on the right side of the back three, 12 of 16 accurate passes, 34 touches. He had 1 touch into the box, 3 passes into the final third, 11 defensive contributions, and 3 or 4 ground duels, which means that he's getting forward, right? So that's what I love seeing center backs that are not afraid to get forward and make runs. What's interesting about it is obviously being a Spurs fan, I'm very aware of what I guess you can say a pacey center back is able to provide. And of course, Mark McKenzie, don't get me wrong, man, he's nowhere near a dude like Mikey Van de Ven. But that being said, when you have a center back that actually can make runs and actually be somewhat of a little bit of a facilitator, it actually adds an extra wrinkle, right? And why he's not getting minutes for the U.S. men's national team, I have no idea. But that being said, he probably is the second or third best center back in the pool. It's interesting, right? So instead of seeing a guy like Tristan Blackman, I would have much more would have rather seen Mark McKenzie, and hopefully that actually happens. I'm curious to see exactly the evolution of this back three and whether or not Mark McKenzie's finally going to get some love playing next to Chris Richards and Tim Ream in that back three. Cameron Carter-Vickers played today against Kilmarnock, and I guess I get it, right? It's the Scottish Premier League, and they ended up winning today. But the interesting thing about it is, like, Cameron Carter-Vickers continues just to pepper shots from outside the 18. It's actually kind of interesting to watch. And again, I don't know if you guys pay attention a lot, but that being said, for some reason, I watch a lot of Scottish Premier League. And so I've seen a lot of Cameron Carter-Vickers this year. Granted, Celtic is not, Celtic of what we would consider them, but they're not bad either. He had 102 of 104 accurate passes today, 116 touches, 8 passes into the final third, 10 defensive contributions, 8 clearances, 3 of 5 of accurate of aerial duels. Dude was awesome. And again, I get it. It's the Scottish Premier League. And so you're probably not going to be seeing a lot of solid attacks in the Scottish Premier League. But that being said, dude's good. Dude is really good. And when we see him in European play, whether we want to acknowledge this or not, he kind of does back it up. Now, granted, when you're going up against better attacks, we'll see that as well too. But that being said, I would be remiss if I did not show my flowers to Cameron Carter-Vickers, because I think he's not bad, man. He's not bad. And I like to sit here and say that he's not one of our 4 best options at center back would do him an injustice. Nokai Banks did not play. That was unfortunate, but it is what it is. And I was kind of curious to see if he would play. We don't know if it was a knock, considering he didn't have any minutes in this international break. So from that standpoint, you kind of wonder if there was some sort of training injury, or I don't know. He just didn't play. Turning to our wingbacks, Anthony Robinson did not play this weekend as they were. Who was Fulham playing? They were playing Bournemouth. They won 1-0. But Anthony Robinson did not play. And again, I did not necessarily find out what the reason was. I would just assume that because they're kind of reintroducing him into the starting 11, maybe there was a setback. But that being said, it sucks because I was kind of curious to watch Anthony this weekend. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Turning to Serginho Dest, he actually did play a full 90 against NEC, played the full 90. He did have an assist, and actually it was a cheeky assist. It was absolutely brilliant. 27 to 30 accurate passes, 2 chances created, 47 touches, 5 passes into the final third, 8 recoveries, 4 of 7 ground duels, and so he was doing it on both, doing it again on both ends for PSV. But that being said, it was against NEC Nijmegen, and I guess I do have to preface that because NEC, not exactly one of the better teams in the Eredivisie. It just is what it is. But you love to see these type of performances, and now this is like the 3rd or 4th straight performances that he's put together for PSV. And I guess he's clearly kind of showing the separation between him and a guy like Alex Freeman. And I don't think there's any debate towards that. Clearly he is the best right wing back in the pool. And, again, like when you're showing these type of quality, especially when you're coming from the international break in a U.S. shirt, you want to see that continuity, that consistency, and he was just able to do it. It was brilliant. Turning my attention to John Tolkien, because Holstein Kiel beat Schalke 1-0. He played a full 90. He had one shot on goal, 34 of 44 accurate passes, 4 chances created, 75 touches, 5 passes in the final third, 6 defensive contributions, 12 recoveries, and 4 of 6 on ground duels. And the cool part about this is, like John Tolkien, again, this is like his third straight very good performance for Holstein Kiel. This is the wild thing to me, because, again, he's continuing to do it. Now, whether or not you want to rate the second Bundesliga, okay, fine, whatever. It's actually a very good league. And let's, like, I'll shed some truth here, right? A lot of people in Europe will say that the second Bundesliga is better than the championship in England. There's like this rivalry between the second leagues, between those two countries. But that being said, man, John Tolkien is doing it in a very fast and physical league in the second Bundesliga. Meanwhile, Pochettino is showering the love on a dude like Max Arfsten, who, by the way, okay, he's good for the Major League Soccer level. But that being said, it's like John Tolkien does everything Max Arfsten does, but better. And why he's not getting any love. I would love to see John Tolkien in a situation of what we saw against Japan, and like for like of what they're asking Max Arfsten to do. I'd love to see John Tolkien get that love. As I mentioned a little earlier, Joe Scally did not perform this week for Borussia Mönchengladbach. But let's talk about Marlon Fossey, man. We haven't heard from Marlon Fossey in a while. Standard Liège in the Belgian Pro League did beat KV Machen, and Marlon Fossey played a full 90, 37 to 42 accurate passes. He did put a shot on goal, 65 touches, 2 in the opposition box, 8 passes into the final third, 8 defensive chances. He had 3 interceptions, 2 of 3 of aerial duels, and he actually ended up winning the man of the match. And that's something that I love to see personally. But that being said, again, it's nice to see this pool on display, because we talk about Serginho Dest and we talk about Alex Freeman, and and the quality I guess those two show, but we don't necessarily talk about the Gianluca Busas anymore, because I think a lot of us just assume that they're probably not going to be in play. But that being said, when they're continuously having performances like this, we have to talk about them to remind everybody, but we have other options. And the last time we saw Fossey in a U.S. shirt, he actually played pretty well. That was, I think, last September, last October. And it's going to be interesting, man, because, again, I think that these underrated players not only need to be talked about, but it's, when you have these type of performances, man, it's going to be interesting to see exactly what we see from them next week, because, again, there could be a way that Marlon Fossey plays his way back into rotation here if there's an injury, etc. So these are the type of performances, man, that you want to highlight. Let's turn to the goalkeepers, because there's really only 2 to talk about. Diego Cochin, obviously, did not play this week. I think he might have been the backup with Barcelona. And, of course, Gaga Slonina didn't feature either, as he's the third choice for Chelsea. But Ethan Horvath did not have a good weekend, man, with Sheffield Wednesday, as they lost to Bristol City. I believe it was 3-1. He did play a full 90. Now, here's the thing. It's like when Horvath showed up to Sheffield Wednesday, and, again, understand exactly the situation which is going on in Sheffield Wednesday, man. They were put into administration, so they're already on a points deduction. This is a team that is under a transfer ban and can only bring in frees, and then at that point they have to be cleared by the EFL. And so Ethan Horvath did join Sheffield Wednesday. Was fine first couple starts, but yesterday, 90 minutes played, Gave up 3 goals conceded, only made 2 saves, 48 touches, 10 recoveries, but was only 5 of 25 from accurate long balls. It was not a great performance at all by Sheffield Wednesday. And of course, you're only as strong as the defense that's in front of you. And Sheffield Wednesday was just not good yesterday against Bristol City. And of course, Jonathan Klinsmann, who is in the Italian second division in Serie B, and they were playing Sampdoria, and I believe they lost yesterday. He did play a full 90, did concede 1, 32 touches, 15 of 31 accurate passes, but only 3 of 19 accurate long balls. It was not a good performance yesterday from either of our keepers that are overseas. And I guess you, regardless of what happens in that, these 2 guys are battling for the third keeper position. And I don't necessarily know if it's going to be an uphill battle. But what I will say from that standpoint, you would probably assume that both Matt Freese and Matt Turner have their gloves stamped on 1 and 2. And so regardless of what happens over the course of the year, these guys are probably going to be scrapping it out for the third goalkeeper position. But that being said, it's what do you value for that third goalkeeper? Do you value the experience of knowing that if anything should happen, that one of these guys can step in and perform because they have that experience? Or is this something where you choose to take your youth? Either way, I don't really give a shit what happens at that third keeper position, because the chances of them actually needing a third keeper are going to be slim to none. But crazier things have happened. But that being said, man, it was just an exciting weekend for the U.S. men's national team pool players over in Europe. I thought, obviously the striker position was the position of record this weekend, getting very good performances, from Balogun, from Pepe, from Haji Wright. It was nice to see because, essentially what this tells me is that our striker depth is going to be absolutely tremendous when it comes to the World Cup. Now, granted, it's going to be dependent, obviously, on form and availability. But that being said, it's nice to know, depending on how we're going to play, whether we need to play direct, or whether we're playing with width, is going to determine, I guess you can say, the style of striker. And actually, since we actually have a deep striker pool, I would probably assume that Maurizio Pochettino is going to have his, he's going to have his pick. But that being said, what I like about this week, it shows you that in certain instances, the class is there, which gets me excited for these upcoming next windows, because we're playing some tough opponents and guys that are going to be, teams that we're going to see in the World Cup. And this is the time where we're going to see. This is where we're going to see our best players, right? We get Ecuador in this upcoming window, along with Australia, 2 teams that are going to be in the World Cup. Australia hasn't lost in quite a long time now. Granted, I would probably assume we're going to blow the doors off of Australia, but you never know. But that being said, they come in November, we get Uruguay and Paraguay, right? So this is the time where you want to see our strength, put together consistent performances, man. And this is a nice start. This is a very nice start. So it's going to be, I'm excited for the next, I can't wait for October. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. So anyway, that's going to do it for me, man. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. And I hope you've enjoyed your weekend. And I will see you a little bit later this week as I get back from Miami. Also, make sure you pay attention to the social medias, because I will be posting stuff on my X feed at Stateside Footy, and also the TikTok as well too. So again, man, make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I hope you had a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Have a good night, guys.
Rusted goalposts under fading skies.